And welcome to a special edition of the C&J Speedway Review, coming to you live on a Wednesday night. Burns from the Loki and Jabroni Show, live streaming every Tuesday night, and for your ears and listening pleasure, wherever you steal podcasts from, every Thursday morning. On the other side of the screen, celebrating is the solo artist himself, Mr. Corey Huffnagel. Corey, how are you today?
Doing pretty well, and all I could just say is my beard is growing pretty good, and it's growing thick right now, but all I could just say is tomorrow's the last day of No Shave November, and then Friday I'm shaving it off, and then it's going to be a lot different without the beard, but all I could just say is it's going to grow back probably within the next few weeks. But man, what a good Thanksgiving it was. Pretty much stuffed myself with turkey, and it was funny because it was actually the first weekend, that we didn't have any NASCAR racing, which I was like, what am I going to do now?
I did feel the same way at one point or another.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I want to tell you guys, last week we had a bit of an emergency situation here. Nobody hurt. However, with last minute, no time to prepare, Corey ran the championship episode by himself. I watched it back, and man, you did a fantastic job, and I dare say not have done better myself. So no hat today, because it's no hat November 29th.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And Eddie and I were talking about it last night. We were doing the Loki and Jabroni Show before we went hot with that. Like, man, Corey, you never took a break. You were just hot the whole time. It was fantastic. So again, I couldn't be happier that it went off without a hitch. No problems, no fuss, no muss.
Thank you.
All right, so real quick before we get into the fantastic subject of Dale Earnhardt Jr., the life, the times, the career, and the retirement,
right.
give you guys a breakdown of what I saw at championship weekend. I'll only take a few minutes of your time.
Yep.
Once again, all of our champions were no surprises. Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr. Close races, all of them. Tight most of the day. I think only in the truck series did we have somebody fall out with a problem, but all deserving. Enjoyed all three races. First time in a long time I've been able to catch all three, boom, 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 3 days in a row without having to watch it back or the Fire Stick. So I had a great time. From my daughter when the Cup race was over. And it was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because she is a Truex girl. So
right.
When I had her for Thanksgiving, one of the first things out of her mouth was, when do I get my championship T-shirt? So Klaus will bring her a championship T-shirt. Who knows? But it's going to be it was a proud moment to share that with her, and it was great. And that's about it. So,
all right.
If you'll allow me to be the stat guy for a moment.
Okay.
As this slower than dirt computer comes up, we are here talking about Ralph Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. A lot of people don't know that Ralph was his given. Born October 10, 1974 in Kannapolis, North Carolina. He's 6 foot tall. He's 185 pounds. He is the 1999 Busch Series champion. Yep. He won the Daytona 500 in 2004 and 2014. He won the Winston, which is now the All-Star race, in 2000. In 2003 and 2008, he won the Budweiser Shootout. 2003, 2004, 2008, 2015, 2016 Can-Am Dual winner. His first win ever, came at Texas Motor Speedway, the 2000 DirecTV 500. His first race was in Charlotte in 1999. Sorry, guys. His last win was 2 years ago in Phoenix at the Quicken Loans Race for Heroes 500. Now, what can you say about this guy that probably hasn't been said on 100 shows already? But I'm going to give you the opportunity to do so.
I'd probably say with Dale Earnhardt Jr., I mean, not only like he's the son of a legend and the grandson of another legend, but I would, for a guy that has won the most popular driver award like every consecutive year in a row, and pretty much, has been the fan favorite every time, he goes to Daytona and Talladega and, at every single racetrack there is. I mean, there's just no there's no doubts that, I would say that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is probably one of the best drivers that there was in the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series, which is then Busch Series or so. I mean, sure, he won the Daytona 500 twice. He's won the All-Star race. I mean, didn't win a championship, but all I could just say is, now that he's retired, I mean, there's no doubt he's going to go to the Hall of Fame within like the next 5 years.
Oh, there's no reason he shouldn't as well. Just those accomplishments alone, most popular driver for what? Now it's been 16 years.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that when we get the most popular driver vote back in 2017, it's going to be.
Exactly.
I mean, when you look at the accomplishments, 26 wins on the Cup Series, 260 top tens, 15 poles. Let's go down to the Xfinity Series. 24 wins on that series, 91 top tens, 10 poles. Never a real strong qualifier, but man, could he turn that wheel. He was fantastic. I remember way back when, I want to say it was 99-ish.
Yeah.
It was the year he won his second Busch championship before going full-time. And he was tearing the ass out of the field in the race that I saw. 3 drivers finished on the lead lap in that race. And those 3 were nose to tail. And that's only because of late race caution. These guys were way back in the field. They jammed the field up. And it was also on the day of the single file restart.
Right.
So there was a lot of things that were going his way that day. And so when you watched him in the Xfinity Series, Busch Series, Nationwide Series, however many names it's going to have for the rest of its life, he really was dominant.
Yeah.
There's no other word to use other than dominant. In those 3 years that he ran full-time on that series, he took home 2 championships.
There's no question about it.
And then he went Cup. Yeah, and then when he goes to the Cup, immediately, within 2 years, he gets his first win. He gets he gets the Winston in his first full-time season in the Cup Series. One of the things that always struck me about Dale Jr. was, like you said, he's the son of a legend, but being the son of a legend doesn't necessarily become success. Because for every Dale Earnhardt Jr., there's a Kyle Petty. There is a Jeb Burton, but Jeb Burton's still young, and he may come up because I do believe that Jeff Burton is a racing legend. Right. Pardon me for saying so. Being the son of racing royalty doesn't equate to success. But one of the things I know about Dale from reading his book back in the day, Driver Number 8, watching the movie that ESPN did about Senior called 3. If you've never seen it, run out. Watch it. It is fantastic. All he ever wanted to do was be a race car driver. And obviously, Senior, knowing that it's a hard road, you may not make it, he pushed that boy to the limit. You want to race? You got to do it my way. Not your way, my way. Right. I have the hardware to show that I can do this. If you're going to learn, you're going to learn from the best.
Absolutely.
And learn he did. Watching some of the go-kart footage that they've been showing on some of these tribute shows that they've done, watching his legend car stuff, he really did. He would hug that wall, inside, outside, didn't matter. He knew what he was doing. And it showed in everything he did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we said we were going to come in and talk about some of the highs and the lows, some of our best memories, what we're going to think of him. What's the sport going to be like without him? What is your number one best Dale Jr. memory?
I would say my number one best Dale Jr. moment would have to be whenever the guys would go to Daytona and Talladega, even though Dale Sr. was and there's no question that he's one of the best drivers on the restricted play tracks, but with Dale Jr., you take him to Daytona or anywhere else, I mean, he knows how to run the draft. He knows how to run with the guys pretty well, and he knows how to get up to the front, and try to win the race. But I'd probably say one memory that I would have to say would be the best would be the 2001 Pepsi 400, when he came up from 6th to 1st within the last 3 laps of the race and ended up winning. And I kind of watch that video almost every single day, and I say to myself, it was like 5 months after Dale Sr.'s death. Dale Jr. goes back to Daytona. He ends up winning the race. And, you know, I'd probably say, like, not only he won the race, but the celebration afterwards I thought was incredible. You know, Michael Waltrip was there congratulating him. All the crew members were out in the infield grass. I mean, it just couldn't be a storybook ending. And then another Daytona moment from Dale Jr. was when he brought back the 3-car, which had the Wrangler paint scheme. And that one was pretty amazing. And, you know, to bring that back, to bring the 3-car back to the Daytona for like the first time in like a couple of years, you know, was pretty remarkable as well. And actually that was actually the first race with the Xfinity Series COT car back then and so forth. But yeah, those are pretty much my Dale Jr. moments by far.
Not to steal your thunder, that was amongst mine, but mine will always be the first win, that Texas win. When he's in victory lane, surrounded by the crew, and you see Senior elbowing and shoving to get his way up there to be with his boy, the win for DEI. They'd had wins before, but this one was special. This one was Junior. This one, and you rarely ever saw Senior with a full-on smile on his face. But that day, he was grinning ear to ear, hugging the boy, you know, tussling his hair like he loved to do. And in the book, Junior's like, I hated that. I hated any time he ever did that. But that day, he must have loved it because it was a very special day. He ran the tar out of that car that day. It was a well-deserved victory, and to have him be able to share it with his dad, who owned the car, was phenomenal. And let's be honest, in the years that they got to race together, you know, Senior didn't give him an inch. If he's, you know, if that number 8 back then saw that number 3 car coming up behind him, I'm sure the first words out of his mouth were, "Oh shit, here he comes."
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter if you were Dale Earnhardt Jr., Rusty Wallace, Terry Labonte. If Senior got behind you, your blood pumped a little harder. You know, you got a little shaky. Maybe you're gripping the wheel a little tighter. You knew the Intimidator was coming, and he wants to win that race as bad as you do.
Exactly.
If there was a low point, and not that there were many low points, this is really a guy of the people. You never hear a bad word about Junior. You know, even in meeting the fans or doing charity work, and his commercials are almost up there with Peyton Manning's as being some of the funniest sports commercials of all time. But if you had to pick a low moment in the career of Dale Earnhardt Jr., what would it be?
Boy, my low moment, I had to think of a couple ones, but mine would have to be when he won the race at Talladega back in 2004. This was in the October chase race at the time. And it wasn't, you know, when he won the race, but it was actually what he said, like, after the race, like, during his victory lane interview, which he pretty much said the S-bomb on air. And then next thing you know, NASCAR caught that, and they said, well, we're giving you I believe it was a 25-point penalty or something like that. And
Certainly was.
And I said to myself, well, you know, he was in second, I think, after the points penalty, I kind of dropped him to like 5th. Now, I was kind of thinking about that, and I said, okay, had he not say that on TV, you know, could he be in second throughout like the whole entire like last couple of races of the season? I don't know. I mean, because you had like guys like Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson. Those guys were like dominating back then, like with the final fourth.
Well, he wouldn't have been up there because as I'm reading this bio here, the 25-point bump from NASCAR combined with 2 consecutive DNFs in the chase basically dropped him out of the running, even though he finished 5th. I'm saying the DNFs killed him. But, yeah, certainly, and I remember the quote was, hey, you've won here X amount of times. You seem to really know the track. Oh, it ain't shit. Dad's won here 10 times.
Yeah.
Which would be the second time in 2 years that happened, because a year earlier in New Hampshire, Robbie Gordon dropped the S-bomb on Michael Waltrip after that race.
And I remember I was there for that race too.
Oh, did you ever get to see the interview footage?
I did. I seen it a couple times, and I thought, wow, all I could just say is don't piss him off.
Yeah, Robbie Gordon was a hothead, and I liked him just for that.
Yeah.
The low point for me was actually one of the high points I had, because they kind of go hand in hand, was May 10, 2007, where he basically he said, at the end of the season, I'm leaving DEI, and I'm going to join Rick Hendrick the next year. High point. I'm going to be my own man. I don't have to rely on my family. I've come this far. I got to see if I can do this with another company. but he also knew the ship was sinking.
Right.
I think it was that year that Earnhardt and Ganassi became one. The funding was terrible. The cars were terrible. I think their only win, Earnhardt Ganassi, the only wins came from Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, because that was back in like 2008 when that was like the whole like Great Depression that came down, and and there were like teams that were losing money and stuff. So yeah, I remember that year. I think it was 2008 when DEI and Ganassi merged, and then they pretty much were a team for about, I don't know, maybe a few years, and then after that DEI left, and then it was basically Ganassi from there on.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, the low point for him, because I know when Senior built DEI, the vision was, I'm gonna run this someday. My boy's gonna run it. The wife's gonna run it. Whoever, they're gonna bring us a championship. Then we lose Senior.
Yeah.
People who have run in that DEI car, from Junior to Michael Waltrip, just Mark Martin, a lot of guys went through that system, and I'm sure he wanted his son to have it. But again, the infighting between him and Teresa, and there's a name you don't hear anymore, Teresa Earnhardt. Where are you now? We know where Dale Jr. is. He's racing royalty, not because of who his dad is, but because of what he did on the track. So that was kind of a low moment for me, because that was really the end of not just DEI, which became, Earnhardt Ganassi and whatever, but it became the end of his family grip on the sport.
Right.
Whereas Petty has gone on, all these guys Stewart, same thing. You can have successful driving careers, you transfer it into the business career, much like BK Racing or Kevin Harvick Inc. or all these other guys who are transitioning into ownership and then decide, I don't want to do it. This was going to be the team of the future, and it's gone. We don't have DEI anymore. I don't think Earnhardt Ganassi exists anymore. I think it's just Ganassi now.
Yeah, correct.
So, again, we don't have time to get into. Maybe Teresa Earnhardt will be something we talk about in a later episode.
Pretty much. I mean, because I think it was like, 2007. That was when like Dale Jr. wanted like part of like the ownership, and then I guess Teresa said, he couldn't or so.
I'm pretty sure that's correct. Yes. So, but again, I mean, hindsight. If Senior doesn't die, 2001 Daytona 500, are we talking about Junior retiring in a DEI car?
That's a tough question, but I would probably say yes.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I honestly think had we not lost Senior in 2001, this team would have been, DEI, the red number 8, or whatever sponsor came along with it. He'd still be there. So we've gotten that out of the way. One of the questions I've been thinking about is, do you think that he ever escaped the shadow of his father?
I mean, I would probably say yes, but you look at Dale Sr.'s results. I mean, of course, 7-time Cup Series champion. He's won the Daytona 500 once, and he's won 76 races. Comparing to Dale Jr., I mean, he's won 26 races in Cup, and of course, he's won the Daytona 500 twice. Never won a Brickyard, never won a Cup Series championship. But all I can just say is he's won the most popular driver award so many times, and he's pretty much the fan favorite like everywhere he goes. And and all I could just say now with him retiring, there's pretty much not going to be an Earnhardt in the field, for like the first time in like years. But I would say that, Dale Jr. is probably going to go down as one of the best drivers, in NASCAR. I mean, not one of the best, but, mostly like the top 5 on my list.
Of the modern era drivers, I would certainly put Jr. up there in that upper echelon. Gordon, Johnson, Kenseth, who we'll talk about Kenseth toward the end of the episode. This is all Dale Jr. for right now. There's Tony Stewart would be another one. Kevin Harvick creeps up on that list. Kyle Busch creeps up on that list. As much as I hate to say it, these are guys that, in the modern era from say 2005 till today, have really set the sport on fire. And again, like you said, when you go to the tracks, when you go to the races, hell, when you go to Walmart, there's not a place you go where you don't see someone sporting Dale Earnhardt Jr. gear. I went to Fenway Park in May. to Star Wars night.
Okay.
Not that I want to be in Fenway Park, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to please your friends and your woman.
Exactly.
And I get off the tour bus. We're walking toward the stadium, and one of the first people I see on the streets of Boston is sporting a Dale Earnhardt Jr. cap. This
Wow.
guy, I'm serious. This guy transcends racing. I don't know how much acting he's done, but those commercials are phenomenally hilarious. All the years he's done commercials, he has been funny as hell.
Wow. That's really. Hello?
I don't know if I lost you for a second there. I didn't hear a word you said. I'm sorry.
I said that's pretty impressive. I mean, for a guy that's done commercials, I'm thinking like, okay, I want to say who it is, but I'm not sure though.
Which one?
The guy that does like the commercials and all that, whatever it is.
Are you saying his commercials, Junior's commercials, or?
Oh, Junior's commercials, yeah. Because
I wish I knew, because if you take a guy who has no acting experience and he is the funniest dude in all these commercials.
Oh, okay.
The one Angela hates the most is the retirement commercial. Like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna climb mountains, I'm gonna do this. She's like, yeah, you're gonna take your butt to the store and get mayonnaise. Mayo,
geez.
right, got it. Funny as hell.
Yeah.
Again, it shows the down-to-earth nature that he can poke fun at himself.
Yeah.
And not have a problem with it. One of the things that comes up, and I want to go back to this bio real quick as my phone is blowing up. People don't understand that Wednesday night is racing night.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it now. Okay, Michigan in 2012.
Okay.
Had to start 42nd place after the crash in practice. Lead lap in 4th place. He actually led for a while. Not many guys can do that in a backup car. When you consider that 3 of the 4 members of Hendrick that weekend left the race with engine problems. Casey Kane, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, all out of the race with engine problems. Here comes Junior in his backup car, starting in the second to last position at the time, tearing his way through, getting to the front, leading some laps, and finishing 4th overall. Speaks to his tenacity and his drive. He's another guy that just does not want to lose.
No question about it. I mean, like, he's one of those guys that, that can saw the wheel pretty well. And, and there's actually been, at some tracks where he'll pretty much run that high line and he can get a good grip off the corner as well. But yeah, going back to 2012, I mean, you look at that season, of course, he won at Michigan back in June, but then that was actually one of the first years that he had one of the concussions. Well, actually, the first one was back in 2002, but the second one that he had was at a testing crash at Kansas when they repaved it, reconfigured, and all that stuff too. But this was one of the interesting things about it was that, Junior said, oh, it's kind of like a headache or whatever it is, like I'll fight through it and all that, blah, blah, blah. Then you go to Talladega a couple months later and he gets caught up in that big crash. Next thing you know, he suffers another concussion. So now this was pretty much a wake-up call for him, not only for him personally, but also his health. So now he said, okay, now I need to step out of the car, to figure out what's wrong. And, sure enough, he was out for like maybe 4 weeks or so. And this was actually a big wake-up call for NASCAR because that's when they started saying, like, okay, now we need to start having concussion protocols for drivers that have a head-on crash or a hard crash whatsoever. So they started doing that, like, I think after the 2012 season in between. But then you go to 2016 where he suffered another crash at Michigan. And I looked at the footage. I mean, it wasn't like really that much of a bad hit. I mean, he pretty much got caught up on the high side with Chris Buescher. And then next thing you know, he gets tapped by the 37 and then boom, he hits the wall. And then sure enough, after Kentucky, and I remember this quite well too. And I was taking a friend up to the race that year. And I think this was like midweek. They said Dale Earnhardt Jr. out. Alex Bowman's going to be in the 88. And I thought, I couldn't believe it, And then I found out that Junior suffered another concussion. So that was when everybody was asking, like, okay, when is he going to be back in the car? probably give him like maybe 3 races and then he'll be back in. Well, 3 races goes by, doesn't get back in. They said, okay, give him until maybe like the end of the regular season and then he'll be back in the car. Sure enough, Junior makes the decision saying like he's going to miss the rest of the whole entire season to get himself back up and running, to get healthy and then get that whole concussion thing under control. And to be honest with you, like I would say that when he came back this year, I was kind of concerned about it because I said, okay, now that he's coming back after missing a half entire season from the concussion, how do you think that's going to like handle his menability and how do you think it's going to handle his vision? Because, because you're going at a car within 190 miles an hour. And if you hit that wall or whatever it is, like if you have a hard hit, then, obviously you're going to be shaken up afterwards, but you're going to be pretty sore like the next day.
And especially in the wake of concussions in sports in the last, say, 10, 12 years, where you have names like Junior Seau and Chris Benoit and Justin Strelczyk, whose lives end so tragically because of the damage concussions have done to their brains. It really is smart of him to get out while he can. He's a 43-year-old man, still relatively young. I'm about to turn 45 next week. Yeah. And, I still look at Junior as the kid, But if he and I were neighbors, we're doing the same things. We're, cooking dinner and watching the kids and mowing the lawn and things like that. But for him, it's a smart move.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't want to have your head, you can have all the Hans devices. You can have all those restraints around your helmet in the car, which I always hated because it restricts their ability to turn their head and look over their shoulder. You can have all the mirrors you want. Your first instinct is to look over your shoulder. Good move by him. The first concussion, like you said, in 2012, I think it was. Yeah, and he came back. This year, he just wasn't the same. And I'm not quite sure this has to do with lack of talent. It might be due to the fact that, I'm going to race a little more conservatively than usual because I don't want to have that one final blowout concussion that is just going to basically not just ruin my career, which is almost on its way out.
Right.
So when we got the father question out of the way, I've tried to think back to, and when you think about it, Junior really didn't have rivalries like Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt, or Jeff Gordon, Jeff Burton, or Harvick and Kenseth. He was just a guy that everybody liked. If there was one person, because they were buddies, they came up around the same time, and they were always in the hunt together, I would say if I had to pick a rival for him, it would have been Matt Kenseth.
Yeah.
Rivalry. It's a lot like, Derek Jeter and David Ortiz. They're buddies, but you put them on the field, they want to win just as hard as the other one. Is there someone you would say was a rival, friendly or otherwise, with Junior throughout his career?
I would have to say the only rivalry that I can probably think of right now would definitely have to be your answer. But, other than that, he hasn't had any problems with other drivers. But actually, to think of one, another rivalry that I have to say would be 2008 between Dale Jr. and Kyle Busch. And you go back to both the Richmond races. The spring race, Junior was probably 3 laps away from winning the race, and then Kyle Busch gets into him, spins out, hits the wall, boom, his race is over. Fast forward a couple months later, September race, Junior's in second, right in front of Kyle Busch, and then next thing you know, 88 turns him, and then boom, he hits the wall. So, yeah, right. There's pretty much, a couple of rivalries over the years, but, that's pretty much one I can only think of.
Right. We all know his new career is going to be in the broadcasting booth with NBC next season.
Yep.
I enjoyed listening to him in 2016 when he was out with the concussion doing Cup and Xfinity broadcasts. What a lot of people don't know is he's got a lot of other business interests. He owns Hammerhead Entertainment, which is a media production company that creates and produced the TV show back in the day. If you ever watch it on Speed, it's a really good show.
Yeah.
He's also a partner with a group of investors who are building Alabama Motorsports Park, a Dale Earnhardt Jr. Speedway. It's going to be long to put on a T-shirt, guys, but it's going to have stock car racing, kart racing, and a road course. In cahoots with this, with some Charlotte folk, and they're putting it in Alabama. If you ever go to Charlotte, avoid Whiskey River Beer and Wings. Angela and I went there in 2015, and it may have been the worst service at any restaurant ever, and the food was terrible. But the beer was cold. They were decent prices. My buddy waited 45 minutes for a turkey wrap that never showed up.
Oh, jeez.
So the ambiance was great. I loved it walking in, and then, everything went to hell. I actually wrote a letter about his restaurant, and I never got a response. So that's that. He also owns 2 car dealerships in Tallahassee, Florida, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Chevrolet and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac. So if you're ever in the Tallahassee area, go on down and see Dale Jr. and Rick Hendrick's car lot. Not that they'll be there, but they're making the money, Jack.
Exactly.
So one of the other things that I found funny when I was looking this up is that he was featured in Playboy Celebrity Photographers in 2003 when he photographed triplets. Yes, sir. And that's back when he was running wild and single before he married Miss Amy.
Yeah.
Who I think also must be, I would say, the second most calming influence on his life, other than his father's death, is his wife, Amy.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd probably say, like, when he knew that Amy was the one, that he pretty much knew that, he was going to marry her. And sure enough, they got married, I believe, this year. And now, next year, they're expecting their first child. And that's going to be a great moment for them as well.
That is correct. I just read that a few minutes ago before we went hot. It's Dale Jr., man. Go get it.
Right.
Go get it.
That's right.
He has done a couple of one-offs in films. He had the episode of Cribs that everybody loved.
Yeah.
The media darling, and I'm not saying that to be a schmuck. I'm saying that because who doesn't love Dale Jr.? I mean, he wasn't my favorite, but let's be honest. Everybody loves Dale Jr. Nobody really has a bad thing to say about him.
I wouldn't have a bad thing to say about him either. And actually, another one that I actually want to point out is also not only that, Junior has his own race team in the Xfinity Series of Junior Motorsports. And you look at that team, and I would probably say that this year, 3 of his drivers were in the hunt to win the championship. William Byron, who's probably the youngest driver in the series. And then, of course, you had the veteran Elliott Sadler, and then Michael Annett. And then, of course, Justin Allgaier. I mean, what Dale Jr. built for that team the last few years. I mean, if you think about it, he's had some guys that have already went up to the Cup Series, that have either won races or won championships. I mean, you look at guys like Martin Truex Jr., you look at Brad Keselowski, you look at Danica Patrick, you look at Jimmy Johnson, of course, when he ran a couple of races and so forth. And then you look at guys like Casey Kane, Chase Elliott, Jamie McMurray, Kevin Harvick. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. But I would say that, for Junior Motorsports this year, I mean, yes, I mean, it was great to watch those guys battle it out for the championship. It was great to watch William Byron to win his first Xfinity Series championship for the team. And I would expect them next year, to still be the ones to watch for next season. I mean, I still hope that Elliott Sadler could win a championship next season. I mean, of course, he's came close a few times in the number 1 car. And then, of course, you got Justin Allgaier, who won 2 races last year, and he could have came close to winning the championship as well. But I do expect him to be pretty good next season. But actually, if you think about it, he actually started off his race team, called Chance 2 Motorsports back in like 2004. And that was when he had Martin Truex Jr., who ended up winning 2 championships in the last 2 seasons in 2004 and 2005. And then if you look at Truex's career between the Xfinity Series to now, I mean, you think about it, he's won a Cup Series championship, he's won races. I mean, the guy's got it all right now. And actually, it's funny because when Martin Truex Jr. Was in a press conference after the race at Homestead, then this was like after he won the race in the championship, he pretty much said, and I think he said this best. He said, "I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dale Jr."
Yeah, absolutely. He's always had an eye for good young talent, and sometimes talent that when they got to the Cup Series, much like Elliott Sadler, had some success, but he was never going to break that ceiling, that glass ceiling, to get up to the elite. Why not take Elliott and put him in one of my cars and let him go? And it's worked. He's got a great eye for talent, and being 43 and having the rest of his life ahead of him, he's going to have a long, happy life, hopefully, God willing. He's going to be able to pick out more young talent. Best way to do that is to sit in that announce booth with NBC doing the Xfinity and the Cup.
Yep.
And be able to watch and pick and in his mind make a mental note. That guy right there, I'm going to pick him next year. If his contract is up, he's going to be my guy. And going forward, I wish him nothing but the best. I really do hope that everything Dale wants in his life is going to come true. I can't think of too many more deserving people in NASCAR that I would sit and do a tribute about. We did one a couple years ago on Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
The Logan Jabroni show. When Stewart retired, it was kind of bittersweet because you kind of knew with all the Kevin Ward stuff in New York that Tony's heart just wasn't in it anymore. But he excelled on the business side and still excels on the business side. So kudos to him. But for Junior, your kid, and if you ever get to see this, I salute you, man. I'm going to miss seeing you out there. The more guys that have come through over the years, and I've been watching this stuff a long time. I've seen them come. I've seen them go. I've seen them when they're young. I've seen them when they're old. And I've seen them at times when maybe they shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car anymore because, honestly, if you can't get out there and you can't be competitive, just go. Don't be field filler, man. And I don't think he wanted that for himself. So you're getting out when the getting's good, kid. It's certainly not going to be the same. Angela's a Junior fan. Loki's a Junior fan. Some of my friends are Junior fans. They love him, and it's they're experiencing what I experienced back in 2005. Even though I had Kevin Harvick like sitting over here on a perch, I knew. But some folks, you get to that point, and you're like, okay, who do I root for now? So they're in this process of picking up their new driver. My friend Mark has already made his decision. Brad Keselowski. Angela's made her decision. Kyle Larson. Some of the others don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys out in Junior Nation think. Who in your heart and on your chest when you put on the T-shirt or put the cap on?
And let's be honest, guys. I mean, it's not hard to choose. I mean, because if you look at the sport right now, there's a lot of young drivers that are out there, and I've watched a lot of these young drivers the last few years, and let's face it, a lot of them have talent, a lot of them have won races, and a lot of them have been running for really good teams that can win races and that can contend for championships within like the next 5 years down the road. And so, yeah, I mean, we definitely love to hear what your favorite drivers are going to be in 2018. But other than that, all I can just say is thank you, Dale Jr., for making your racing career great. I mean, we saw your good times, we saw your bad times, but other than that, we wish you the best of luck in the future, and we also wish you the best of luck on the birth of your first child. And all I can just say is, it's going to be hard at first, but in the end, you'll pretty much figure it out. But all I can just say is thank you.
Absolutely. And one bit of news before we go and take a week off and come back in 2 weeks. Did you see the article that quoted Dale Jarrett as saying he's predicting that Matt Kenseth is going to be behind the wheel of that 41 come 2018?
There has been rumors about that, and I was actually looking on one of the articles on Facebook. They said that they were actually thinking about that too. But now, even though it's not official yet, I could probably see that as a possibility. I mean, it depends, what they're going to do with Kurt Busch, how the negotiations are going to go and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see Matt Kenseth be in a Cup car for Stewart-Haas Racing. And, not to mention, he was a Ford driver before, when he was with Roush Fenway. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if he goes to that seat. And then, of course, you got Kurt Busch. I mean, of course, Richard Childress Racing hasn't announced who their third Cup driver is going to be, but it wouldn't surprise me if Kurt goes there as well. But yeah, I mean, let's face it. I mean, I would probably say there's only four, maybe 3, 4 guys that still have yet to decide where they're going to go next season. So it's going to be very interesting. I'd probably say after the awards and, during the off season and before media day or something, where everybody's all going to end up next year.
I would love to see Matt Kenseth just for maybe a 2-year deal. Get behind that 41 and show the Gibbs guys, you didn't make a mistake moving Jones into the 20. Excuse me.
Right.
You made a mistake taking a guy who knows how to navigate the tracks, the field, knows how to get up front, knows how to be competitive for a guy with really record on the highest level. So, yes, sometimes the youth movement is important. And like you said, we are looking at one of the greatest crops of young talent we've seen in NASCAR in years and presence. So I really do think that we're going to see Matt Kenseth in the 41 going forward. At least if he signs, it's going to be 2 years. I would be willing to bet he won't go like a full deal, or he won't get the, lifetime gimmick Schneebitz Fernum. He's going to do what's best for him. Give me 2 more good years, and then I'm just going to tip my hat and get out the door. He's not going to pull a Carl Edwards and just wake up one morning and say, you know what, screw you, I'm done. I'm still hot at Carl Edwards for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that too. And, actually, I heard last week, so I guess he was in like Missouri or something. He got the Stan Musial Award or something. And I guess there was a little bit of a hint that Carl Edwards was thinking about going back racing, but he didn't say, he was going to go back NASCAR racing. He's thinking about going back dirt racing. And, and let's be honest, with Carl Edwards, I mean, yeah, I was surprised that, he made that announcement. I mean, the fact that he was only like 37 years old, I mean, he was still young. I mean, I could have saw him maybe go another 5, maybe 10 years, because you looked at him. I mean, he was physically fit. I mean, he knew how to drive a race car pretty well. But yeah, I mean, all I could just say is it's going to be interesting to see who ends up where in 2018. And, definitely I would have to keep my eye on, what Matt Kenseth is going to do next season. Not only that, what Kurt Busch is going to do as well.
Amen to that. And with that, we bring to a close the special Dale Earnhardt tribute. Once again, a fantastic career, easily going to win his 15th consecutive when the awards come out.
Yeah.
Vegas with everybody else. He deserves to be there. They should give him a spot on the stage. They should give him his own wing. Let him sit up there like Scarface behind the desk, minus the mountain of powder.
Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt, the recognition he deserves in Las Vegas at the awards ceremony. Corey, after last week's fantastic solo effort, you had to sit with me for 45 minutes, and we'll do it again in 2 weeks. By the way, once again, congratulations on that. You really stepped up, and you were fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And even though I didn't have my notes with me, I still had my iPad with me. I looked up all the results and, just pretty much gave it my best.
Fantastic. Well, guys, we will see you not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after. Couple shameless plugs real quick before we head out. Southeastern Connecticut area, December 9, Ella T. Grasso Technical High School is Constitution State Wrestling. The second time they're coming around, and it is the second time that the Loki and Jabroni Show will be there providing live commentary. If you cannot make the show, go to the Loki and Jabroni Show Facebook and YouTube page. You will see live streaming of the event. You'll see the event in front of you. You'll hear us behind it. Also, December 16th is going to be the celebration of me getting old. Throwing me a party at Tokyo Sushi in Norwich, Connecticut. Guys, come on down if you're in the area. If you're not in the area, that's great. Throw $50 in an envelope and mail it to me. I'll be happy to whiskey myself to death. Plug this week.
Just the same old as usual. Follow me on Twitter. We are at NASCAR Indy, Instagram, NASCAR IndyCar. Go to my website, NASCARindy.org. We took a little bit of a vacation for Thanksgiving, but we'll probably post up more news articles along the way, even though now the racing season's over. So there's going to be a few big stories that are going to come out. And then also follow us on Facebook at NASCAR IndyCar Central as well. Also, one other plug I want to put in. I just want to say congratulations to Tony Stewart. He's going to be getting married to former Playboy model Penelope Jimenez or so. But yeah, so he popped the question. I think it was on Thanksgiving, and I'm pretty happy for him. 46 years old. I mean, he finally settled down with the right one, and I congratulate him and Penelope, and I wish them a happy and healthy marriage.
You can get a picture of the two of them right now, and if you wouldn't have told me, and if the articles hadn't said that this woman was a Playboy model, I wouldn't have bought it. She kind of looks like, in this picture that I'm looking at, Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years, who is a beautiful woman, but
yeah,
I wouldn't put Winnie Cooper in Playboy. But there she is. And none of these pictures are naked, by the way. I'm just looking at her and Tony together, sitting by a fireplace, etc., so forth. She is a beautiful lady. And Tony Stewart is a big cheeseburger-eating dude. So, sometimes you kick outside your coverage. I know I do. So, fantastic for him. Congrats, Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
And I wonder, smoke, there's fire.
Could be.
I guess only Penelope knows for sure.
Yep.
All right, guys. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us.
Good night.